in common. That Lenin Party was very nearly wrecked by an unforeseen incident. The same scheme in common that Lenin Party was very nearly, by unforeseen incident. The chartered ship on its way to Switzerland was intercepted and taken into custody by a British warship. But Schiff quickly rushed orders to Wilson to order the British to release the ship intact with Trotsky's hoodlums and gold. Wilson obeyed. He warned the British that if they refused to release the ship, the United States would not enter the war in April, as he had faithfully promised a year earlier. The British heeded the warning. Trotsky arrived in Switzerland, and the Lenin Party went off as scheduled. But they still faced what ordinarily would have been the insurmountable obstacle of getting the Lenin-Trotsky band of terrorists across the border into Russia. Well, that's where Brother Warburg, chief of the German secret police, came in. He loaded all those thugs into a sealed freight cars and made all the necessary arrangements for the secret entry into Russia. The rest is history. The revolution in Russia took place, and all the members of the royal Romanov family were murdered. Well, isn't that very interesting? The Illuminati killed the Tsar, killed his whole family, and Woodrow Wilson made sure that they got through safe enough to do it. That was the President of our United States, folks. That's the President of the United States who committed an illegal act of murder, committed an illegal act of revolution on the Russians. Now, my chief objective is to establish beyond even a remote doubt that communism, so-called an integral part of the Illuminati great conspiracy for the enslavement of the entire world, that communism, so-called, is merely their weapon and boogeyman word to terrify the peoples of the whole world, and that the conquest of Russia and the creation of communism was in great part organized by Schiff and the other international bankers right in our own city of New York. A fantastic story, yes. But some might even refuse to believe it. Well, for the benefit of any doubting Thomas, I will prove it by reminding that just a few years ago, Charlie Knickerbocker, a Hearst newspaper columnist, published an interview with John Schiff, grandson of Jacob Schiff, in which young Schiff confirmed to the entire story and named the figure old Jacob contributed. It was $20 million. If anybody still has even a remote doubt that the entire menace of communism was created by the masterminds of the great conspiracy right in our own city of New York, I will cite the following historical fact. All records show that when Lenin Trotsky engineered the capture of Russia, they operated as heads of the Bolsheviks party, now Bolshevism. It is a purely Russian word. The masterminds realized the Bolshevism could never be sold as an ideology to any but the Russian people. So in April 1918, Jacob Schiff dispatched Colonel House to Moscow with orders to Lenin and Trotsky and Stalin to change the name of their regime to the Communist Party and to adopt the Karl Marx Manifesto as the constitution of the Communist Party. Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin obeyed, and in that year of 1918, the Communist Party and the menace of communism came into being. All this is confirmed in Webster's Collegiate Dictionary Film Edition. In short, communism was created by the capitalists. Thus, until November 11, 1918, the entire fiendish plan of the conspirators worked perfectly. All of the great nations, including the United States, were war-weary, devastated, and mourning their dead. Peace was the great universal desire. Thus, when it was proposed by Wilson to set up a League of Nations to ensure peace, all of the great nations with no Russian czar to stand in their way jumped on that bandwagon without even stopping to read the fine print in that insurance policy. That is all but one. The United States, the very one that Schiff and his co-conspirators least expected would balk, and that was the one fatal mistake in the early plot. You see, when Schiff planted Woodrow Wilson in the White House, the conspirators assumed that they had the United Nations in the proverbial bag. Wilson had been perfectly built up as a great humanitarian. He supposedly became established as a God man with the American people. There was every reason for the conspirators to have believed that he would have easily hornswoggled Congress into the buying the League of Nations, sight unseen, exactly as the Congress of 1945 put the United Nations sight unseen. But there was one man in the Senate in 1918 who saw through the scheme, just as the Russian Tsar did in 1814. He was a man of great political stature, almost as great a man as Teddy Roosevelt, and fully astute. He was highly respected and trusted in all members of both houses of the Congress, and by the American people. The name of that great and patriotic American was Henry Cabot Lodge, not the phony of today, who called himself Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr., until he was exposed. Lodge completely unmasked Wilson and kept the United States out of the League of Nations. Note, shortly thereafter, the Illuminati had created the 17th Amendment to do away with appointed senators by the legislatures of the several states of the Union. Whereas before the Illuminati controlled the press, they now controlled the elections of the U.S. senators. The Illuminati CFR had little or no power over the individual legislators of the several states of their appointed U.S. senators prior to the purported ratification of the 17th Amendment. Although the 17th Amendment supposedly amends the method of placing senators into the U.S. Senate, the 17th Amendment was never ratified in accordance to the last sentence of Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. 2 states, New Jersey and Utah, voted down the proposition, and 9 other states never voted at all. Whereas the states of New Jersey and Utah expressly refused to relinquish their suffrage in the Senate, while the other not voting 9 states never gave their express consent, the proposition for the 17th Amendment did not obtain the unanimous vote required for its adoption. Furthermore, the resolution that created the proposition did not pass the Senate with the unanimous vote, and those senators of that day were appointed by the legislator of their states. Those negative votes or non-votes were made in the name of their respective state. Here it becomes of great interest to know the real reason why the Wilson League of Nations flopped. As I previously stated, Schiff was sent into the United States to carry out 4 specific assignments. Okay, I'm not going to read the 4 specific assignments again. I want you to get a general idea of what's going on here. This thing, I could read this continuously. It's a very, very long document. If you'd like to read the rest of this document yourself, you can go to www.freedomfightersforamerica.com. It is under the tab, The Illuminati. Okay, and you can read that, and it's a very, very interesting article by this man. You really should take a look at it if you can. I really want everyone to know what a threat the Illuminati is to our country and to our freedom and to the world. I know this won't make me popular with them at any rate. This is definitely an experience that people need to understand. This is what's going on in our lives. These people have been around a long time. It may not make sense to some, but if you do the reading and do the research and really, if you question it and try to understand it, you will be coming to this conclusion, okay? We were going to do something about illegal human experimentation today, and I will make that our next show. We will do illegal biomedical human experimentation, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Freedom Fighters for America Radio, listener supported, and that means you. And I'd like to end the show with one of my favorites, and just let me state here that Freedom Fighters for America Radio